Okay, so I'm on my way home now from the place, and God, I look awful on this camera. Fucking 100,000 year old. Look older than my father. Now, I have learned many valuable lessons about the bud market of this particular city, and one of those valuable lessons is never go out in the middle of the night. You're gonna get a shitty bag. You're gonna get the shittiest bag. But at least it wasn't CBD. It was genuine weed. So for some reason, this camera makes my teeth look really white, even though it's very dark here. And I don't know, whatever. Uh, I could have gone to bed, woken up tomorrow, and gone to the market in the morning. But after spending the entire day waiting for my money to come in, I had had enough. I had had enough. But honestly, this is a measly half bag. But it's snowing, it's cold, it's the middle of the night, and I have gotten worse bags when I shop at the middle of the night, so it's neither here nor there. Uh, that being said, once I get home, probably have freaking tuberculosis from Madagascar now. Uh, Once I get home, I'm gonna make a video about environmentalism because I've been watching a lot of these clips about, environmentalism. Environmentalism, and a lot of these right-wing commentators don't seem to grasp the seriousness of it, and a lot of these left-wing commentators don't seem to grasp the lightness of it. It's a very serious issue, but it's not worth destroying our society over. It's a fairly light-hearted issue, but it is worth cleaning the apartment nonetheless. So it is an issue where both sides seem to stick too close to their sides, meaning that the traditional understanding of polarization seems true. The much wanted new age left wing thought of polarizing, meaning that to become unto charged particles from an uncharged particle, to build the energy. So, as I said in the previous clip, the whole polarization movement in the new age is getting exactly what it wants. People to polarize and split into camps of good and bad, and good is allowed to do any trouble unto bad because bad is bad. And restraining yourself from doing ultimate harm is not even requested. The ultimate harm is to send somebody love when it is uninvited. That is the ultimate harm in New Age philosophy. Yet these New Age philosophers don't resort to sending hostility because it would be a lesser harm if the most efficient weapon, and that is the most harmful thing, would be sending uninvited love. So they don't tune down their hostility by sending hate instead of love. So they send what they know to be the most efficient weapon, love, against somebody who doesn't want it. And this, to somebody who doesn't understand the implications of sending somebody love uninvited, seems not a big deal. But once you get your brain attached to your shoulders and you realize what these people are talking about when they're talking about sending uninvited love to the evil ones, you realize that that entails certain violations of bodily autonomy. So this is something that needeth be said. So these polarizers, these forces of building polarity, are of the opinion that we ought to destroy the planet. And they are coating it in the very mild illusion of maybe we'll work it out. But their main goal is to polarize into two opposite camps, the good and the bad, send the bad into hell, and ascend the good into heaven. This is the standard murderous, rapist, mind fucker. The standard stupidity of this camp. They literally don't understand what they are doing. And this applied to me as well when I was part of the community. I didn't fully understand what they discussed when they said that they're trying to polarize. I read all their material, and in their material sense, building polarity is a very good thing. And I'm not disputing that if you take it as their material instructs, it's a very good thing. But you have to understand that their material does not exist in a vacuum, it exists with others in society. So when you start to discuss building polarity in a society that acknowledges that polarity or polarized societies means violent societies, it means societies where people are far from each other, where individual differences are exaggerated. That is a polarized society. So their high and mighty words amount to nothing because the context those words are said in is one that paints their meaning as something that may not have been intentionally made, but the fact that they don't realize that they are in a larger linguistic context means that they don't understand that their words, in fact, are evil. So, towards that end, you could discuss sending love unwelcome to others. And you could have good, high minded ideas. You could have the greatest conversations about it. It would be a glorious thing. But once you take it into the context of, say, feminism, and say you belong to a camp that sends love uninvited to others as a way of correcting them, then you realize who you're talking to. And these people are absolute cultists. They are groups that ought to be avoided. You can interact with them. I'm not gonna censor you for interacting them. I interacted with them for 10 years. But basically, the reality is that if you want your close up view of a cult, you got your close up view of a cult. And the reason I know this is because I've been in many cults in my lifetime. I've had my fair. I have been weathered by it. Ah, squeeze me. So, oh yeah, yeah. So, environmentalism. I'm going to be making a clip about it. I'm going to be talking about some interesting, simple methods we can take to battle this crisis. What real world solutions we have that have not been discussed. And I don't mean crystal power or 0 point energy or any of that stuff that you will never be able to prove in a million fucking years after 20 years of studying gravity energy, the best example I could find was a device about the size of a box of like a cupboard that could power one lamp. That was its energy output. Most of these systems, in theory, work. In theory, zero point energy works, but what the people who talk about it don't explain, which goes to show how badly educated they are, perhaps, is the energy density of the energy that they produce. If you have a method of producing energy from the vacuum, and if you take the entire vacuum space of Earth and you produce the energy of one lamp, for example, then it's not really a solution. But if you can make a small device the size of, say, a car engine, and it powers a airliner for 100 years, then we're talking. But a lot of these people who talk about this alternative energy and such don't have the math. A lot of these inventions are good, they work. You can get zero point energy to work, you can get gravity energy to work, yada yada. But the energy you can get out of it is infinitesimal compared to the energy you put into it. The energy you need in high energy physics just to make those magnets is most often far greater than what you can extract with those magnets from the field. There are a few inventions here and there that are worth looking at, but I won't delve into them. They are esoteric to such an extent that they are not smart to be talked about. If the loyal opposition wants it to appear like those aren't options, pushing them where they are the strongest is going to end badly. One of the things Blitzkrieg, the German type of war, thought the world or taught the world is that you don't strike where your enemy is strongest, you strike where they are weakest. And through that, taking your strong point to strike at their weak point, you end up with victory. So if we are to take this environmental movement and strike at the loyal opposition where they are the strongest, say, for example, saying that we won't need oil or we won't coal or there is no use for uranium in renewables, then you could just as easily flush your entire thing down the loo because that's the way you lose. Now, there are a couple of things I want to discuss about this thing. One of them is a topic I discussed earlier with some degree of intensity. That is the third generation biofuels. And from what I've heard in the research community as of late, it is fully conceivably possible that they will be a major energy source in the coming decades. Research is going roughly as we outlined or was outlined. The price reduction is going roughly as outlined. And the price increase that's gonna start cropping up here and there is because we are removing easy to access carbon dioxide sources, and that's gonna increase the price, but it's not gonna be greater than the decrease due to the optimization. So, my arm hurt. So, yeah. The other thing I want to discuss is my favorite topic about environmentalism or topic of environmentalism. It is the simple, elegant solution of widening the shrubbery land around rivers that are being washed into from farmland. There was a case, I believe, in Finland where they were studying how much it would cost to restore a lake or a body of water. I don't recall what body of water it was, but I do recall that it was sizable enough that the restoration cost ran into the high millions range, could even be dozens of millions. And they realized that the algification of the lake was because the farmlands were using a lot of fertilizer, and the fertilizer was being washed with the rain into the river and ended up in that body of water. So they went through various options on how to reduce the wash from the river, from the farmlands to the rivers. And they realized that the cheapest way was to simply take the shrubbery length that you need around rivers from something like 30 centimeters to something like 80 centimeters. I believe those were the numbers, but I could be mistaken. And that change alone was enough to completely remove the algification in that lake. The reason for this being so extraordinarily revolutionary is that the other options were things like organic farming, different types of fertilizers and pesticides and other things like that that would have required all the farmers to learn new methods, spend years perfecting dosages, uh, all kinds of work that doesn't really pay off instantly. And taking a farmland that is hundreds of meters across and taking something that is less than a meter and adding that to the edge was enough. These people didn't need to switch to organic farming. They didn't need to reduce their fertilizer use or pesticide use. They didn't, in fact, need to change anything else except widen the overwash zones in rivers or the shrubbery in rivers. That was all they needed to do. Now, had they, for example, switched over to organic farming, I believe the effect might have been roughly the same. The lake or the body of water would have recovered, but it would have taken years of adaptation to learn the proper trade routes for the organic fertilizers. Do you use ducks as pesticide control methods? All that. It would have taken years to learn. And during that time, the farmland would have produced less. In other words, the farmland would have been impacted by environmental change. So, what they did, in short, was widen the green area. And that was that. Now, environmental change, especially combating environmental change, is exactly like that. You have a problem that is not the most serious of problems, but it is still a problem. And you have a wide array of solutions. Many of them would be prohibitively difficult or expensive to do. And we are trying solution here, solution there. We poke a little bit here, we poke a little bit there, and eventually we're going to find the cheapest solutions to all these things. We're going to find them. But it takes resources and work to find out how to do the least amount of work. That is what laziness is about. It takes real, honest to God labor, hard work to figure out how to get those days off. If you never work, you're never going to have a day off because every day is work for you. I know because I've been there. But once you figure out that sometimes you need to work just to figure out when you don't need to work, then you're good. And that is the thing we do with the environmental change. We figure out the cheap solution out of 100,000 solutions, and then we build those, and then the problem is solved. We don't need to go through every energy resource that we could use and ban them or clean them or do something with them. We just need a one size fits all solution. And that solution is most often something that we haven't even thought about. It is something completely outside of the norm. In our case, when third generation biofuels cost of production drops below petroleum, then the problem is over because then you can use biofuel from carbon dioxide and fresh water or salt water or wastewater or anything like that. And that's the only thing you need. So if that is the solution, then Poland can keep its carbon power plants on for the rest of the day because France will be building carbon capture and resequencing technologies in their country, which captures the carbon dioxide and turns it back into petroleum. So nobody needs to shut down their power plants, and we don't need to go through an energy shortage. But we do need to find this golden bullet because once we do, all the other pieces will fall into place. That is the nature of this thing. So I'm almost at home, and recording in the center is considered highly unadvisable. So I will end this here. Thank you for watching.